All right, so welcome to episode 4 of eBay Scavengers. I'm Mikey, and with me today is Jay.
Hey.
And today we are going to talk about the dark side of eBay. And those are things like getting negative feedback from a buyer, doing return process, blocking buyers, and the DSRs. And so, Jay, just today, let's just start with this today.
Sure.
You had a buyer that bought an item, was happy with the item, and
loved it.
They didn't fill out the form correctly of giving you positive feedback.
Yep.
And then now it's all screwed up. So what happened?
Yeah, I mean, we sold some guy a scarf. He got it really fast. He sent us an email, loved it, gave us good feedback, and then he sent us a message and said, whoops, I didn't understand eBay's star system, and I just gave you a single star instead of 5 stars. Sorry about that. And it was very nice that he emailed us about it, but there's nothing he or I could do about it, and we're stuck with that bad star for the next 3 months.
So if you got too many single stars, what would happen?
Right, and so any eBay seller knows is that, you know, if we get too many bad stars, number one, we can lose our top-rated seller status, which means we don't get a discount on our fees, and also it can drop us in our search standing. So it's a serious thing.
And I think
that
it's not just the fees that top-rated seller status gives you, and it's not just the search, but there's also a third thing that it gives you is discount shipping.
Absolutely.
And to lose all three of those can be a significant financial hit. I mean, I know for me that would be like hundreds of dollars a month lost just from a couple of, if it was just 2 or 3 users screwing up. And
And I think before we get into a list here of things to talk about, I think that this issue here is the number one topic, or number one is reason I hear from people that stop selling on eBay. They always say, yep, I stopped selling on eBay because I was sick of dealing with negative feedback and buyers and people sending things back.
Oh, it's so hard. You know, each day that I get a message, every time I hear my phone or iPad ding and I hear that message symbol that says, uh-oh, and someone wants to talk about eBay. This isn't the selling cash register sound. This is the other sound. And I look at it in a subject line and I see item not received or item not as described. My stomach sinks like I'm going down a roller coaster because it makes me so nauseous to even think about going through the process.
Exactly. But you know what? Well, why don't we talk about it? Talk about what the problems we've had, and then we can talk about how we solve those problems.
Okay, well, here's one I guess got yesterday. It's a return that started. The woman mailed me first, which was nice of her. She actually mailed me and said, hey, I got this watch from you, and it doesn't work. I want to return it, and I bought a battery for the watch, and because that doesn't work, I want you to pay for that. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll cover the watch. But the reality is behind watches, because we do sell a lot of watches, is usually people don't know how to install a watch battery. I've even seen jewelers like put the batteries in upside down and like not mount them properly. Like it's surprising how many people are kind of the users are, you know, more often than not the problem here. But you know, this is, you know, a process, and fortunately it wasn't a negative one. It was just more like the buyer kind of screwed up. We're going to go through the whole refund process and do a return. They'll get their money back, and I'll eat some extra because they bought some extra things that I have to refund them for.
I mean, I think it's for us, we've just gotten to the point where we just say we will take its return for any reason whatsoever. We don't hassle people. We don't make them take pictures. We're just like, mail it back. We'll give you your cash back. You know.
Now on that topic, I totally agree. I do the same thing. I learned it from you. You don't fight it. You just here's your money. But the only exception I have to that is I'll ship an item. I know it's in great shape. It's a good item. The buyer gets it, and they say, not as described, and they don't want to do a refund. They don't want to do a return. And that is really manipulative. That is just game in the system.
Yeah. Well, see, that right there is where I think I try and pull the rug out from under them, because I do think there are people that try and scam a system where they say they're unhappy and they're kind of hinting that they want a little bit of a money back. Now, number one, if it's a junky item or something I don't want back, I'll do that. I'll say, yeah, I'll give you $10 back, or half their cash back, no problem. But if it's something I know I can sell again, and I think they're just being a little shitty, I'll say, you mail it back. I'll give you a refund. And either they'll do it, but most times I never hear from them again because I've kind of called their bluff.
I do the exact same thing as you, Jay. I'll do a partial discount offer with them just to kind of get it out, to just end the whole discussion, or I'll say just send it back, full refund. I'll pay shipping both ways. But I feel there's two things here that kind of come into the return process, and when a buyer's upset after they receive an item, and part of it is just being good at customer support. So it's like diffuse that bomb by opening up with, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you don't like the item. I'm sorry it doesn't fit. I'm sorry that you're a size quadruple XL. Like, whatever. I'm sorry.
I understand you. Right.
I understand you. I know what you mean.
Right.
And I even end with that. I'm still sorry at the end of whatever little blurb of response I give them. I'll end with, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Send it back. Or, I'm so sorry. Here's a refund. And that also works in the case where you get negative feedback, because some mornings you wake up, you go and look at your status, which is pretty much the first thing I do each morning, somewhere between making coffee and going to the bathroom. It's like, what's my, did anyone give me negative feedback?
Yep.
And if I got negative feedback, immediately I contact that person. Now, what do you do when you get negative feedback?
Well, I think you're a little more aggressive about it than I am. I mean, if I get negative feedback, I normally just eat it, because I've tried the whole thing with, I email people, I try and get them to change it. eBay, I think they only allow you to send 2 requests for change of feedback every a year, and it's just, I find that most people just don't want to do it, so I just eat it, Now,
I only have 1 negative feedback for the last year, and that was just from a new person to eBay. They had only bought 2 items from eBay or something, and they gave negative feedback to both people.
Right.
And I called them into eBay, and I was like, you got to get this person off of it. This is a madman,
Well, eBay now has its new thing where you can send a message to eBay about someone that buys something from you. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily that they'll do anything about it, but I bet if a person has a reputation for, being abusive to sellers, I bet eBay will pull their feedback. Because over the past 4 years, we'll wake up and we'll get a message from eBay, and they're like, we've taken off some negative feedback off of it's your score because we've realized a buyer is not being good, and we'll be like, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they are good about that. And I've actually had eBay. I feel that eBay support for their sellers has actually been strongest around some of the negative feedback issues, because I called in the buyer that had given me and someone else negative feedback in the same day. And this was an item I knew was good, and the buyer was incorrect about it. It was a scanner. It was a police scanner I had used for years, and they claimed it didn't work out of the box. I'm like, I used this for years. Yeah. With a coat hanger as an antenna, but whatever. Anyway, so I called eBay, and they were totally supportive on it. They were like, you know what? We're going to monitor this person. If they give anyone else negative feedback in the next 3 months, we'll remove all of them.
I mean, we have 1,700 feedback over the past 12 months, and we have a 4. It's negative feedback, so it's 99.8, which is good in my book. But I'll tell you, there's probably about 20 more negative feedback we could have, had dinged against us if we didn't handle it correctly. Most buyers send you a note where they're telling you they're unhappy, and if you handle it correctly, most people just want the problem solved,
Yeah, I usually work with the people that gave, I got negative feedback this year for a wallet, and I had sold it to another country, and it didn't fit their currency, and so they gave me negative feedback. And it's like, I really have no control that your dollar is larger than our dollar.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, every year we get at least 2 or 3 feedback from, either someone brand new to eBay that doesn't understand that negative feedback is for someone that's trying to steal from you or rip you off. you know, or it's just someone who's just an asshole, you know,
Right.
just they don't ask you anything, they don't contact you to say they're unhappy, they just give you bad feedback.
I think you said it, Jay. It's basically understand, like they're newbies who don't understand the feedback system, or they're assholes.
Right.
That's what it comes down to for getting negative feedback.
And, you know, I do have to admit, you know, as much as people complain about eBay, me included, the system does treat us the way it should, in the sense, like, we do get bad feedback that we deserve, you know. We've done something wrong. We've packed something wrong. We've described something wrong. And, you know, the negative feedback then changes our behavior. And we've learned from it.
I feel, though, that the negative should really be saved for a situation where the seller is not willing to do the right thing. You know, it should really be for the case where you received an item and the seller wouldn't take it back, or gave you a hard time, or it took, 6 months to reach you or something.
Right. Well, eBay does that. I guess it doesn't really have anything to do with the ratings, but they have that new policy where a buyer can't open up a case against you unless they first contact you and give you 3 days to write back.
Oh, that's nice. I like that too. I didn't know about that policy. So I want to say one more thing about negative feedbacks, because I think your partner Ryan had a really good situation that I had never heard of before, but it totally worked out, where she'd shipped an item internationally, something you sold in your store, and the buyer in Europe wasn't happy about the VAT tax they had to pay. So how'd you guys resolve that?
Right. So eBay has a thing where if you get negative feedback from an international person who and gives a reason because of VAT tax or slow shipping, that eBay will take it off, because we are not responsible for that kind of mess.
Right. Yeah. They have VAT taxes. It's not your fault.
Right. I mean, which to me is crazy. Like, when people buy something from us for, $20, it costs $20 to ship it to England, and then they have to pay like another $20 in tax just to pick it up from the post office or something. It's insane to me. Yeah.
Now, on the topic of I was going to switch a little bit out of the negative feedback and into returns. I do automatic returns. You don't. What are your thoughts on returns?
Right. Yeah, eBay has this thing now, which I guess it's you signed up for, where the buyer doesn't have to contact you. They just go through some kind of like a form, right, that tells them to send it back, and they get to print out a label and just mail it back to you. Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It makes it easier for the buyer to get the item back to you.
Right. I think that's eBay's way of competing with Amazon, because that's the way Amazon does it. I chose not to enroll in that program because I was just afraid we just started getting people mailing stuff back to us, not giving us a chance to fix it, and making up for the shipping back and forth. So, because I tell people, unless they say I've done something wrong, I make them pay for the shipping both ways. So if they get a pair of shoes and they just realize that it doesn't look good, or it's just not their style, I'll take it back. But I don't want to lose my money on shipping both ways. So that's why I don't get involved in that automatic returns.
Yeah, I've been using it, and I have to say I don't really like it either, because it makes it so easy for the user, to the point where they receive the item, the shirt doesn't fit, whatever, and they want to return it. It's easier for them to actually return it than to even send me a mail and think about what to say, so there's sort of no troubleshooting or anything on their side. And I should probably get out of the program. I'm in it, and it hasn't been terrible. I think I've only gotten like 2 returns that I was kind of like, I think we could have worked that out over, eBay messages. But
right. I mean, ultimately, you have to be a seller. One thing we've learned that cuts down on all these problems is don't sell a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
And I think as people who are new, because I know we were like this, we just really didn't know what was junk and what is actually good products. And we would be selling sometimes junk, and people would call us out on it. And,
Well, I think part of it too is don't sell to the weirdos. And this goes right into blocking. We get inappropriate messages from other eBayers all the time.
Yep. That's something we learned too, where if someone starts asking a lot of weird questions or asks things that are very clearly stated on a listing, we block them because we know they're going to be a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, and in those cases, I find that there's so many tells to a bad buyer. Just like you said, they ask too many questions. They'll start trying to negotiate all sorts of things through the messages. So they were not even using the or best offer. And I get people from New Zealand asking me about shipping, even though that's all sort of automatically displayed to them. And then they'll want to know about all these minute features of each item that they could have easily Googled faster than they could wait for my response. And not that I would even know either, because this is just crap I bought from yard sales. And I don't necessarily block them as much as I'll either ignore. I'll see the first question, just be like, I'm not responding to that. And I'll block it as soon as they go into the land of the inappropriate. I get questions that come in, and I don't even respond to them. Like, someone will ask me detailed questions about a pair of $18 jeans, and I'm like, I'm not going to go in, find the jeans, answer all these questions. Like, there's 12 photos in a description.
Yep. And that's exactly what we do. People start asking us things that are clearly written down, clearly in the photos, or where, like you said, they start to try and haggle it with you through the emails, then we just block them. Because normally, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get the item and they're going to be unhappy or there's a problem because they're problem people. And it's not worth our time.
Right. And now I do have one thing I like to do with eBay questions that come in is I'll often not respond quickly to them. Even though I got my phone on me and my iPad, I feel if I respond quickly, it encourages a dialogue. And I don't want to do that in most cases. Now, if it's a high-end item and I've been wanting to move it and there's something legitimate about their tone, I'll respond quickly. But I like to stall sometimes just to slow the buyer down.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, once you start to sell enough, I think we've learned what questions are real questions, and we answer those quickly. It's just, I think you start to get the eye or a nose for the tone in people's emails. Oftentimes they don't spell correctly, or the grammar is really bad, like they're typing on their phone with one hand, or they use all caps. Like, those are kind of things we're just like, yeah,
all caps.
We don't need to be. I don't need to sell to you. And actually, there's one thing that I used to do a lot, which I don't do anymore. I used to try to convince people to buy. I had this idea that anyone that emailed me a question, I had to turn that into a sale, you know? And so I would try to sell the thing and talk about how cool it was, and they would come back with, a problem, and I would try and convince them it wasn't a problem, and then I would mail it to them and they would be unhappy because they were buying my vision of why it was so good, instead of now I don't say anything and I just let them fall in love with it themselves. And that's a better way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice, especially for noobs, that, don't hard sell it. It'll sell itself. Yep. And the other thing that I do a lot is I have items that are very popular, and those tend to generate more of the questions and kind of message traffic for me. And I often won't respond to them. I just won't respond because there's already 10 people looking at these tarot cards. They're going to sell. I don't need to describe what each tarot card looks like to you.
Yeah.
And it's especially the same for negotiations. I won't do negotiations on stuff that's going to sell well. I won't take the low ball. If there's a bunch of watchers, forget it. Someone's going to buy it tomorrow,
Every couple of weeks I get the email like, hey, I see this item has been up for 6 months, so why don't you sell it to me for $5? And I normally don't explain it to them, but every once in a while I'll feel I need to tell them. It does not matter how long I keep it in my store. It's not bothering me. It's on a shelf somewhere. It costs me 5 cents a month. It can take a year or two, and it's still going to make me a money because it will eventually sell for the price I want.
Now that example, Jay, of that item has been up for months. Why don't you give me a better price?
Right.
That's the kind of thing I would not respond to. Like they're trouble. Yeah. That's trouble right there.
Yeah, I guess every so often I get that like self-righteous tone where I just want to like school somebody, But I hear you. It's better just not to engage people, and yeah. I hear you.
So I'll tell you a little, I got a little analogy for the not responding, and that is I have this book on how to lift heavy objects. Have I shown that to you when you were over here before?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a great book. It tells you how to move like the heaviest objects, like how to get a boat out of a garage, how to carry a rock on your head, like all this heavy stuff, how to move these impossibly huge objects. And the first question they always say is, do I have to move the object? And that is the first question I ask on eBay messages. Do I need to respond to this question? And I feel like that's where you got to start with all these. Like, if you don't respond, what's going to happen? And probably you're not going to care. So,
right. Yeah.
Don't make work for yourself,
Yeah. Let me see. I've got another story recently where we had a complaint. We had a buyer. I woke up, and there's an email where someone's really angry. And I can tell it's an older lady that bought something from us, and she was upset that when we wrapped it, we didn't wrap it in tissue paper. It wasn't like gift wrapped. That normally we just put everything in like a plastic Walmart bag, put it in a box and we pack it well, but it didn't look nice, and she was really upset about this.
Now, what was the approximate value of this item? Because I feel that plays some role here.
Yeah, okay. So she paid $50 for some Barbies, So she was a Barbie doll person, and we happened to find some, and she bought some of these. And and she felt because she paid $50 that we should have taken the time to wrap it in tissue paper, more like a present,
Uh-huh. Now, what was your solution with this woman?
Yeah, I mean, I did a page out of your rule book. I apologized. I told her I understood. I tried to explain that, all of our packing material is stuff that we're trying to keep out of the landfill. So we're trying to use recycled stuff, and that, but we did understand her. And next time, we sold something like that, it would make sense to use, that kind of it's gift wrap paper or whatever.
Now, my partner turned me on to this idea, and that is, when an item is of significant value, I'll say $50 or more, for us is a little more significant, we'll start wrapping things in just a layer of butcher paper. It's cheap for a roll. Even for a sweater or something, just put it in, wrap it once. It's just a little more presentable when it comes out. But I wouldn't do it for the low-end stuff. It's really more for the, things that are a little more special. But, I'm not a natural packer. I think Ryan and I both have the thing of like, we'll just throw it in a box and be like, look, it's good, but
right. Yeah. I mean, and that was the first person. I mean, we've sold 4,000 things in the past couple of years, and that's the first time anyone ever complained that something wasn't, like gift wrap like that. But like you just said, that was one of those times where a buyer has given you something there, some feedback that was heartfelt, and it makes sense. So now we're going to do what you just said. If we sell like a nice silk tie or some kind of nice item for more than it's $50, we're just going to, kind of pack it like it would be something that you would buy at a nice store. And that's understandable.
Yeah. So I think we should just get into the DSRs a little bit, because they do play.
Yeah, let's do it.
Play a pretty significant role here. And the DSR stand for Detailed Seller Ratings, and there's several categories. It's how accurate was the description of the item you bought, how satisfied were you with the seller's communication, how quickly did they ship, how reasonable were the shipping and handling charges. And I can tell you, like, I think all of the DSR stuff is pretty reasonable, except the last one, which I freaking hate.
Okay. Wait. Which one is that?
All right, the last one is the shipping charges. And I don't think it's appropriate for eBay to let users comment on the shipping charges that sellers are doing unless eBay is going to look at the weight of the item and what the actual shipping would have been. Because both of us, we pretty much just charge exactly what the shipping costs us. We're not gouging. If people buy multiple items, we bundle them together. And it drives me crazy that they let the buyer decide if the shipping was appropriate or not. I mean, the shipping is what it is.
Right. I mean, I think most of our low stars are for that exact thing, and basically it's people just saying they don't like how expensive it is to ship through the post office, and that has nothing to do with anybody except the post office.
Yeah, and that bothers me in particular because eBay does have the information where they could actually be correlating and see if we're gouging. And the other thing is you and I are really professional in that we have tons of shipping materials. We know if flat rate is going to be cheaper than by the pound. We know when things should go priority or parcel select, and we know what should be first class.
Yeah.
Like we have all the correct materials. We even do the regional boxes. Like it's so inappropriate to be flagged for that and to let the users do that because I'm really at the borderline of losing my top rated seller status because of people messing around with that last seller rating.
Yeah, I mean, and I think something that you've talked about, which I agree with, the interesting thing about those star ratings is that that you don't know who gives them to you. So you just wake up one day and just see that you've been given a lot of low ratings, and there's no way to tell who gave it to you.
Yeah. And I think the other thing with the star ratings that a lot of people get really obsessed with on eBay is that if you're not given 5 stars, you're really been penalized. And I don't think that's intuitive at all to the buyer. So you have to have this long, elaborate message that goes out on every sale.
Yep.
And I put it right where you fill out your shipping stuff. Like you can send a little message by default to all buyers. Yep. And it tells them, please leave 5 stars. Anything less than 5 stars penalizes me.
Yep. I think every seller has copy and pasted that a paragraph, that because we actually send a flyer out and put it into each of our packages that kind of say exactly that, if you don't give us 5 stars, it means we've done something wrong. So please contact us if you aren't going to give us 5 stars.
Yeah. Now, what percentage do you think that you actually get feedback from buyers from? Does that help having that little flyer?
No, I'd say we get feedback for about a third of our items, no matter what.
Yeah. I wonder. I haven't paid enough attention. I'm guessing I'm probably close to that, maybe.
I mean, that's why I'm amazed when I see a store that has 100,000 feedback. I mean, to me, that means they've sold at least a couple 100,000 things if they're getting the same kind of feedback we are, which is amazing. I mean, we've been selling for 4 years, and we sell full time, and I feel we do pretty good. And we have, 4,500 feedback. It's just, I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, I don't know either. But, I think maybe part of it is I tend to be really good about leaving feedback for people when the item arrives incredibly fast. So if I order an item on eBay and it's in my hand within 48 hours, I'm like, whoa, that's a good seller. Yep. I want to congratulate them for that feat of postal magic,
Yeah. I gotta admit, I think it's before I sold on eBay, I was always pretty bad about that. I just treated online stores like any store. I bought it, it's mine. I don't need to give you feedback or anything like that. And now I do understand why it's important.
I tend to do it a little more now, but I have to say I do it on eBay. But when I buy things frequently from Amazon for myself, and I never leave feedback there. Their system is so confusing to me. I don't even know how to leave feedback without sitting down and figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm like it's most people. I want to leave feedback if I'm upset. But if I'm happy, I feel like that's exactly how it should be. So why do I need to tell anybody? But
I want to close on a little happier note for our dark side podcast here. And that is turning negative feedback into positive feedback. And I feel like I must do that every week. Every week there's one buyer who's really, not really upset, but they're upset enough that it could be a negative feedback for me if I don't show some good customer service. And I'll tell you, I do it every week at least once, and it works. I just talk to the customer. I'm very responsive to those kind of emails. I won't let something sit for 12 hours if they're upset. And usually that's enough. They just need the attention, it seems, more than almost anything else.
Right.
and I just say, like, what do you need? Like,
Yep.
maybe I'll give you a little extra money. How does that sound? Like,
That is our, I call it our corporate policy. These policies that we just like put into place. So we just do it for every single person, so we don't have to think about it and obsess over. Because these things, it used to bother me all day long. I'd get someone complain, and it would just like be in my head all day. So now, when someone complains, I'll apologize and I'll say, "How can we fix this?" And I let them tell me what they want. And very often, they just want like $5 or something, or give me a shipping back, and then I'm like, okay, no problem. And they couldn't be happier.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to do, is to let them tell you what the issue is, because I had an upset buyer this week, and I gave them a full refund. It was international shipping, and I ate everything, and it was like, I don't know, a total of $40.
Wow.
And I should have asked what they wanted, because I think they just wanted like an apology. Yeah. I don't know if they even wanted currency back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, very often people just want that they realize that you're a person. I find like a lot of people come at us really aggressive because I think we're so accustomed to dealing with like corporations or some big seller where they're dealing with like some person in India on the helpline.
Right.
And they know they have to be really aggressive to get it's what they want, But when I just come back and they can tell I'm just a regular person, then they're, okay.
Yeah,
I can fix this for you.
The other thing I wanted to mention is, on this exact same topic of switching feedback from bad to good, I've been paying people lately. Like, like the wallet person who I sold them a wallet and went international, and they said, "Oh, my bills don't fit in it because it's like a U.S. wallet instead of a Canadian wallet, or wherever they have giant Bigfoot bills." And I said, "Hey, I'll give you $5 if you change your feedback to positive," and they're like, "Okay."
Wow.
Like, I didn't even have to refund the whole wallet. Like,
I think honestly that's illegal, but
I don't see what's illegal about it. Like, you're just like you call it a partial credit,
Right. Yeah. No, that's. I mean, ultimately, on eBay, you have to realize that we're just a store. You're like a retailer that might have a mortar store, and they're always getting people coming in wanting to return things, or they aren't happy, and you just have to deal with it, and that's just part of selling on eBay. And I think once we do these things like we've talked about, it's not such a big deal anymore.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jay, I think this was a good episode for the dark side.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to add besides pointing out what our next episode is?
Nope. Let's talk about its next one. I think we're going to change it up, which I'm kind of excited about.
Yeah. So this episode was the dark side of eBay, episode 4, and episode 5 is. It looks like it's going to be Ryan and I talking about shipping.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
And that's a huge topic, and we got to work on paring that down a little bit into like, is it going to be about the label printing or the box selection or the...
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's how we're going to do it in the future. There are 4 of us, and we're just going to always have 2 people on at any one time, and we'll just kind of switch it out depending on the topic.
Yeah,
so
my partner's been out for 10 days, but yeah, we're going to start rotating it around and have a little bit of different voices to listen to. So that's great. Thanks again, Jay.
All right, see ya.